Assemblymember Waldron, you've been kind to let your colleague go first. Let's hope that we are a little closer. All right. That's okay. That's fine. Yes. All right. So this is a file item 2269. Good afternoon. It's almost good evening, but good afternoon, Assembly Member. Please proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. Assembly Bill 2269 is a bipartisan bill that is principally co-authored by Assemblymember Matt Zababne, which simply harmonizes state law with common practice by officially eliminating pound seizure in California and just joining 17 other states across the U.S. that have done the same. I would like to thank the committee for working with me on this bill, as I will be accepting the committee amendments to address the opposition's concerns.
Thank you.
Pound seizure in a antiquated practice which involves taking animals from publicly funded animal shelters to be used as laboratory experiments. AB 2269 is supported by the State Humane Association of California, Cruelty Free International, the Beagle Freedom Project, Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, the League of California Cities, the County of Riverside, and the New England Anti-Vivisection Society. Here I have with me sponsors of the bill, Monica representing Cruelty Free International, and Karen with the State Humane Association of California.
Thank you. And given the fact that we're still trudging through, if you could, my understanding is there's some opposition from the California Veterinary Medical Association. If you will direct your remarks to their concerns, that would be much appreciated. So please go ahead.
Monica Ingebrigtsen with Cruelty Free International. From the very beginning with this bill, we worked to eliminate the practices that 68% of Americans oppose, which is sending animals from shelters to laboratories for experiments, and to allow the beneficial programs that exist between universities and animals that benefit the shelter animals and the shelters, as well as trained veterinary students. We've endeavored to do this, and we've worked with the California Veterinary Medical Association and UC Davis, and I think we've come to an agreement to make sure that our shared vision is reflected in the bill.
Excellent. Other witnesses in support?
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. I wanted to just use my time, since they already covered it, to just thank your staff for just doing some incredible work and bringing together the words to reflect what the bill was really intended to do. We were all in agreement where we were trying to go. It's really hard to find the right words. She did it, and I just wanted to say thank you for your time and appreciate the committee's indulgence.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Others in support? All right. Let's make sure that mic is on. Riverside is in. Thank you, sir. All right. Any other witnesses in support? Any witnesses in opposition? Any? Yes. That's even better.
Thought you might agree. Thank you, Madam Chair and members. Christina DeCaro, representing the California Veterinary Medical Association. Our association had an oppose unless amended position heading into this committee hearing. As you heard, we had some concerns about the impact on the teaching programs for veterinary students and registered veterinary students. But for the last 2 months, we have been working very well with the author's office, the co-sponsors, and this committee in particular. May I thank especially Ms. Rapier-Rocha for all of her work. She's been extremely accessible, but the amount of hours she's put in on this has been really extraordinary. Thank you to the chair as well. And with the author's amendments today, we are in agreement to be able to remove our opposition, and thank you to Ms. Waldron and the co-sponsors.
Thank you.
Madam Chair and members, Jason Murphy on behalf of the University of California. We had not taken a position on this bill. However, we had shared our concerns primarily with my colleagues from the UC Davis School of Veterinary Medicine who are here today as well. So we wanted to thank you and agree that the amendments today take care of our concerns. I want to thank the committee staff for all of her work and for the Assemblywoman for agreeing to work with us as well.
Excellent. Thank you. Any other witnesses in strong neutrality? No. All right. Take it to the members. Any questions, concerns? I want to thank you for this bill and thank you for the hard work you've done. I think that on behalf of all the animals, that this is, I think, important, and we need a motion to move this along. It's moved by Senator Morlock. You're asking for an aye vote? Very good, please. This is do pass as amended to Senate appropriations.
Jackson?
Aye.
Jackson, aye. Morlock? Morlock, aye. Anderson? Hertzberg? Hertzberg, aye. Leno? Monning? Wachowski? Wachowski, aye.
You have 4 votes. The bill is out. We will leave it on call for the absent members. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, we next have Assemblymember Obernolte, who has file item 33, which is AB 2341.
33.
Good afternoon.
What?
Good afternoon, Madam Chair.
Those are the judges. Take Wachowski's judges. We don't need them anyway. Nobody biased the law up there.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Colleagues, I know that you are all acutely aware of the crisis facing some of California's county superior courts in the allocation of judgeships, and I want to thank the leadership that your committee has shown by introducing the committee bill SB 1023 this year. That would have been a very meaningful down payment on the solution to this problem, would have allocated $5 million to create 12 additional judgeship positions that would go to those under-resourced counties. So thank you very much for that effort. Unfortunately, as you know, that effort was held in appropriations this year. That was a reintroduction of Senator Roth's bill last year, SB 229, which I co-authored, which would have had identical provisions for another 12 judgeships. And as you know, the governor vetoed that last fall. In his veto message, Governor Brown said very unequivocally that before he allocates any additional money for judgeships, he would like to see a meaningful attempt by the legislature to reallocate judgeships from counties he considers to be over-resourced to counties that he considers to be under-resourced. And he introduced a proposal to do exactly that in his budget proposal this year in January, in which he proposed allocating 5 judgeships from over-resourced counties to under-resourced counties. That was approved by the Senate for 4 judgeships, and it was not heard in the Assembly and was not incorporated in the final budget. So this bill, AB 2341, is kind of a final attempt to respond to the governor's veto message. And I'm afraid if we don't get this accomplished through this bill, that for the next several years, there'll really be no hope for solving this problem. And colleagues, I'd like to put a human face on this. Many of you know that before I was elected to this job, I served as the mayor of the city of Big Bear Lake. And I vividly remember the day after I was elected to my first term as mayor, I received a call from the San Bernardino County Superior Court informing us officially that they were closing our courthouse in Big Bear. And for the next several years as mayor, I got to oversee and see firsthand the effects on my community that loss of access to justice would have. And I thought we had it pretty bad, but when I was elected to this job, I found out that we actually had it pretty good in comparative terms. That day when they closed our courts, we had 5 courthouses in my assembly district. When I was elected to this job, we had 1 courthouse in my assembly district. And if you want to think Big Bear had it bad, my constituents in Needles, if they have a court case right now, because their courthouse is closed, they must either drive to, depending on if it's criminal, civil case, to either Barstow or Victorville. And colleagues, that is a journey of almost 3 hours by car. And unfortunately, it is disproportionately impactful on the most vulnerable members of my community, because if you can afford to take a whole day off of work to go to court, maybe not having a courthouse is an inconvenience. But if you can't afford to take that time off, or you can't afford 6 hours of gas for your car, or you don't have a car, you're just denied access to justice. And that's why this is such a critical issue to solve.
Move
Thank you.
the bill.
And before we do, Senator Wachowski has to go vote. He's got a question that I'd like you, if you would, answer a little out of order, and then we'll go back to the regular order of business.
You know, when I was in the other house, I had an oversight hearing, so I heard from your Chief Justice in San Bernardino. What I don't like about the governor's attitude is that he's setting the counties up and setting us up that we're cannibalizing our judge positions. It's unfortunate. It's I don't want to go on. What I'm worried about is that I represent Alameda County and Santa Clara County. They've went forward with the proposal to hold back on getting new funds so that the counties and the courts that were deficient would get the first new money. The governor hasn't delivered any of that new money on that. So what I'm worried about is that under your bill as amended, does it also take the funds that goes for the court support staff with these judgeships. Because you have a judgeship, it's unfilled, but there's money that is included in that. And I can't support that because I live in my area, and I wouldn't expect any person representing a county or up here to do that. So can you address that before I go to trans?
That's an excellent question. The answer is no. This bill only applies to the actual judgeship position, and that money is not paid with local money. Several years ago, the legislature empowered the Judicial Council to work with a workload allocation formula to try and do an equitable arrangement as regards the distribution of money to the court system. This bill has nothing to do with that. So the problem is that we have been successful in getting more money to the under-resourced counties, but unfortunately, courthouses remain closed because we don't have the judgeships to go along with that money. So some of the labor opposition to this bill, and I'm sure we'll be hearing from there shortly, but I really think that it is founded on, I think, the counterfactual understanding that the support positions will also be lost, and that is simply not the case.
But if the judgeship position in Alameda County or Santa Clara County is unfilled, and we want to shift it over, if you don't get any money, how do you get the judge?
Well, we've dealt with the money issue in a separate proceeding. We've already empowered the Judicial Council to shift that money over. And frankly, if you ask County of San Bernardino and Riverside, the primary under-resourced counties in the state of California, I'm sure that they would love more money, but they are so desperate for judges that now they're just asking for the judgeship slots.
And that was the point that I applauded with all the courts coming together. The courts who were in better positions voluntarily agreed not to give more money to the underfunded courts with the promise that more money would come. All right, thank you for that clarification. I didn't realize that the money had already been shifted, so it's a bad position for me. All right, thanks.
It's a bad position, the fact that we are not adequately funding the courts, and we could override the veto. Okay, all right. You want to take the lead on that, Senator?
Second.
All right, all right. All right, let's have our witnesses, 2 minutes each. Please, if you wish to go ahead.
Minute 45, clock me. And thank you, Madam Chair, Senators. My name's Brian McCabe. I'm the presiding judge of the Merced Superior Court. I'm the chair of the state's trial court presiding judges advisory committee, and I'm an advisory member to the Judicial Council. As a representative of the sponsor Judicial Council, this proposed legislation does not involve shifting of any monies. WAFM, which was adopted 4 years ago, already does that. The question asked by the senator alluded to the judges themselves, which does not come out of the trial court budget. They're state constitutional officers. They're paid from the state. What AB 2341 does, it only deals with the shifting of judicial positions. And up to 5, they have to be vacant and from courts where more authorized judgeships than assessed need to courts with fewer authorized judgeships than assessed needs. The Judicial Council views AB 2341 as necessary step to procuring any new judgeships and accompanying funding. Why? Because of last year, the governor vetoed SB 229, Senator Ross' bill, for the reasons stated. This year, the governor again noted in his proposed budget for fiscal year 2016-17 the same message. Finally, the most recent analysis shows that the judiciary is in need of 270 judgeships throughout the state. Most acute shortage is in the Inland Empire. AB 2341 would be the first, although not a painless step to securing these needed judgeships. The Judicial Council urges this committee to approve AB 2341. Thank you.
Did I hear you say 270
270.
judges?
Yeah, and if I may allude to that, back in 2005-06, National Center came out and did a survey in California that determined that there's a need of 355 judges at that time. However, Chief Ron George and the council noted that would be impractical, so they zeroed in on the 150 most needed and broke them up over 3 years, 50 each year. SB 56 was passed, it was funded, it was filled, and then AB 159 by Jones, the author, the following year was passed, but never funded, and we never got to 3. And since then, we have a languishing number still there to the detriment of the public.
Madam Chair, I think that that's based upon an old model of the court
2014.
delivery system. Well, it's even its delivery system, the thinking was old. I think that the future commissions and the thinking that's going on now with new technologies and the like, if we can get it together, we can do what we need to do, properly fund the courts and deliver justice.
Right, and we may not need to do it with 270 new judges. Yeah, I understand. Okay, but we are definitely short of what we need. Yes, sir. Very briefly, if you'd like to. Yeah.
Very briefly, I'm Harold Hopp, the presiding judge of the Riverside County Superior Court. And I just want to emphasize a couple of things. First, this is a long-standing problem. I was sworn in as a judge 11 years ago this month, and we were short over 40 judges. That's been true ever since. The most recent statistics say it's 51. San Bernardino's around 57 or 58. No matter how efficient we are, we're short a lot of judges. This is a little bit of help. I think the better solution is to fund new positions, but I also recognize that this has the virtue of something that the governor would actually support. So I urge the committee to call his bluff. He said that he would before agreeing to fund new positions, he wants to reallocate some positions, so let's reallocate some and then say now it's time to fund some new positions. I urge you to support this bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other witnesses in support? Name and affiliation, please.
My name is Raymond Haight. I'm the presiding judge of the San Bernardino County Superior Court. I join in the comments already made. This is not an ideal solution, but at least it's a step in the right direction.
It'll help. Right. Very good. Thank you very much.
Andrew Langley on behalf of the County of Riverside in support. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Other witnesses in support? Any witnesses in opposition? All right. Why do I feel a turf battle coming on? Okay. Good evening.
Kimberly Rosenberger with Service Employees International Union. I'm going to be very brief because I'm deferring my time. However, I do want to highlight one thing on staffing. I understand the WAFA model. It's very complicated. It does fluctuate with workload. However, there is not one court in California that is fully funded or fully staffed. So if we're to shift the judges, the Judicial Council themselves has identified that a fully funded judgeship is about 8 staff. So I think Senator Wachowski put it best, saying this is a cannibalizing movement. We understand there's a need to address it, but this is simply another robbing Peter to pay Paul method. However, I am going to defer most of my time to Judge Carville, who we have from Alameda Superior Court.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Evening. Thank you, Madam Chairwoman, for letting me address the committee. We really appreciate your time. I have just 2 things to say. First of all, we recognize the desperate need for San Bernardino and Riverside to have judges. That is longstanding. We do not dispute it, and we understand the political reality that in order for them to get some contribution, we have to sacrifice 2 judgeships, and we're prepared to pay that price. What our concern is, we have not been able to get any assurances on funding and whether the funding goes with those judgeships. We are a donor court under WAFMA. We have been losing money for the last 4 budgets. That means we are now doing rolling blackouts in civil and family departments. We cannot staff the judgeships we have. Taking the judgeships is not a problem. We have vacancies now, and we don't have the money to staff those courtrooms if we had those vacancies filled. What we can't do is have any question about whether or not we are supposed to contribute financially. Rolling blackouts. We cannot have all our courtrooms open now, even with vacancies. We have, in a clerk, let me make it real, that when a courtroom goes dark, that staff goes next door to keep that courtroom open. And they have to answer the phone, cover the emails, and get the orders out from the department that just left. And these are staff folks who have gotten, some years, no raises. Last year, 1%. And we are wearing them thin. We have supervisors and managers covering courtrooms, and we have not been able to get any assurance from the Judicial Council that those new judgeships transferred from our county, we won't have to pay for. And that is a very serious concern. We are stretched very thin, to the breaking point. We have dark courts, and we cannot afford to lose funds.
Thank you. Most appreciated. I'm married to a retired judge. I've heard this story for years, and it hasn't gotten better. I hear exactly what you're saying, and certainly staff, they really are overextended to the max. What happens is we're losing a lot of the really good senior staff members who take retirement because this is just too much, and then we lose that experience and that supervisorial capacity, and it just tumbles on down from there. So I don't know, this bill goes on to Senator Probst from here. I don't know if they can answer the question. You know, we don't have any jurisdiction over the Judicial Council. I know that they're robbing Peter to pay Paul too. There just isn't enough money, and the courts have not been a top priority. And I know the chief's been working on this too, with the loss of $1 billion, during 2008. It really hasn't come back. This, I know, is just an attempt to really try to plug the hole in the dike that just continues to, kind of leak in every courthouse in the state. So appreciate your being here and your concerns. Next witness, I think very briefly, 30 seconds.
I can do it. Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. I'm Chad Finke. I'm the Executive Officer of the Alameda Superior Court. I just want to echo everything Judge Carville said.
Always good to echo what your presiding judge says, yes.
I am very cognizant of and sympathetic to the plight that my counterparts in Riverside and San Bernardino are in. I would just say, you heard it said that their need is 51, 57. I think my concern, like Judge Carville's, is the staffing money. And I think creating, that would be a tiny drop in the bucket to help their problem, and it would be a huge problem for us. So that's where I'm at. Thank you very much.
Any other witnesses in opposition? And then we'll go right to Senator Hertzberg. Please name and affiliation, please.
Libby Sanchez, Laborers Local 777 and 792 in opposition for the reasons previously stated.
Understood. Thank you.
Madam Chair and members, my name is Risa Jones-Pichon, and I'm the presiding judge of Santa Clara County Superior Court. I hope that you'll indulge me for just a tad more than 30 seconds. While we're not mentioned in the bill 2341 as one of the courts from whom judges will be taken, we are one of the courts where the assessed need, we have more judges than the assessed need. And so we know that we would probably be one of the courts from which judges are taken. So our court needs all of our judges. We are a collaborative court. We do much to help our community. Our community works closely with us so that when defendants leave our court and when litigants leave our court, they leave our court in a better position than they came, so that they have mental health treatment, they have drug treatment, they have help in juvenile. Our families leave whole instead of separated. So that takes a lot of work on our part. So we feel that the needs study does not take into account the actual work that our court does. It takes into account only case filings. So we actually need the judges that we have to continue the good work that we're doing. However, we do understand that our judicial brothers and sisters in other counties do need help, and we would like to do our part. I discussed this with our judges at a court meeting last week, and we just want you to know that we want to do our part. So we would like to support this bill if certain amendments are made, and I would like to list those for you.
I think what I would suggest you do is, because we really are getting late, we haven't even done the bar bill. Bar dues bill, is I suspect that the Assembly member would be very interested in talking with you. This bill is going to Senate approach. There's a financial aspect that's really not quite in our bailiwick, that if you would chat with each other and try to work something out. Everybody's being asked to take a haircut, and I think that knowing the work you do some outstanding work in your courts, and probably something we could all learn from some of the programs that you have. But I would ask you if you would consider this going forward, and appreciate your testimony here today. And please make sure that the two of you talk before you leave here tonight. If you
We will continue to do that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Madam Chair and members, Pat Moran with Aaron Reed and Associates representing the Orange County Employees Association. We're opposed to the bill. Thank you.
Thank you.
Joshua Golka with the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, also in opposition.
Thank you.
Morgan Carvajal with the Hernandez Strategy Group on behalf of the California Federation of Interpreters, also in opposition.
Okay, thank you very much. All right. Anyone else in opposition? Let's bring it back to the committee. Any questions or comments? Senator Hertzberg, followed by Senator Monning.
Very briefly, I just, look, this is a very difficult situation, but I just contextually want to place this, and thank you, the author, for doing this. But, you know, it's hard. This is really a cannibalization, but I want to take the bigger picture, and I know we've had a number of conversations with the chair of this committee about the importance of the judicial branch. The Constitution sets forth 3 branches of government. You know, we're one, you're another, the judicial branch, and you don't have a lot of political power, except, of course, when you want a judicial appointment and get letters of recommendation. But beyond that, it's a problem. And I would venture to guess that of all the branches of government, obviously executive, I guess in a different context, but the number of folks on a day-to-day basis, not the DMV, but the impact, whether it's small claims court or probate court or marital dissolution or all the kinds of courts or traffic court that folks have an intersection with. And I'm just deadly focused on this larger issue about how we have to restructure the judicial branch where we can really figure out how we can provide services for folks, be respectful to folks, and provide justice is what we're supposed to do. This is a very short-term bridge of a very challenging and difficult and painful problem. But I just wanted to take a moment because I'm really focused on this. I'm doing the traffic tickets now, but I think it's critically important that we, and I know the chief is working on this in a pretty significant way, and the chair is very interested, but I intend to spend every year that I'm here working on this issue to try to, you know, figure out a way to reinvent the judicial branch. And I apologize to you for the challenges that you've been facing, but we're going to really work hard to try to fix it.
Agreed. Thank you. Senator Monning.
Madam Chair, first I apologize for not being here for the presentation. We are taking votes in Public Safety Committee. So as opposed to repeating ground that you've perhaps gone over, I would appreciate it if the author or the chair might touch on these issues if they haven't been already. Sounds like should the bill move forward, there'll be continued work on it. I do represent part of Santa Clara County, and I'm particularly concerned about impacts while recognizing the need that the author is trying to address. I would hope you would look at the possibility of freezing positions versus outright transfer. My understanding is the funding for the judicial position is state funding, not county funding, but that does raise the concern about protecting the dollars supporting the county staffing positions and how that would be impacted if these positions were transferred or frozen. So those are some of my concerns. I know I appreciated the author coming by and displaying a very open mind. I know I've heard from our bench in Santa Clara County as well. So I hope this will be ongoing kind of refinement. And I also just want to associate myself with colleague Senator Hertzberg's comments that, as we've said in our funding and budget crises, we don't have a healthy democracy if one branch of government is not able to fully operate. In Monterey County, we've had court closures. I know in other counties, including authors, there's been outright court closures. While judicial positions and staff adapt and adjust, it's the public who are denied access, and in some cases that closure of a courthouse, it's an absolute denial because of lack of transportation, etc. So again, I appreciate what the author's attempting to do for his district, and look forward to our continued collaboration to minimize adverse or unintended consequences on the courts that have been identified. Thank you.
So Hobson's choice. And with that, do we have a motion? moved by Senator Hertzberg, with the commitment that you're going to continue working. We had the, I think, the presiding judge from Santa Clara who'd like an opportunity to chat with you, and I hope you'll take advantage of that as well. With that, the motions do pass to Senate Appropriations, where this will get an additional, I think, very thorough review. Please call the roll.
Jackson? Aye. Jackson, aye. Morlock? Aye. Morlock, aye. Anderson? Aye. Anderson, aye. Hertzberg? Aye. Hertzberg, aye. Leno? Monning? Aye. Monning, aye. Wachowski?
All right, that bill has 5 votes. It's out. We'll leave the roll open. Thank you all for taking the time to be with us. Appreciate the.
Thank you, Senator.
All right, we have file item 41 by Assemblymember Wilk,
We didn't get,
followed by Assemblymember Gatto. You'll be next up. You're on deck.
Madam Chair, I was going to address the issues I raised. But anyway, there.
He's
All right, my friend.
or 6. At 5? Well, then, good evening. This is file item 41, yes. We're all getting paid overtime. File item 41, which is SB 2637. Good afternoon, good evening, Assemblymember Wilk. If you go ahead and proceed.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair and members. I've been watching you all afternoon, and I really appreciate your stamina. Before you this evening, I have AB 2637, a measure making changes to the California Franchise Investment Law. AB 2637 proposes to amend the Corporations Code to address an unintended consequence caused by Code Section 31109.1. Specifically, AB 2637 is designed to simplify the negotiated sale of franchises in instances where all parties are in agreement and about the terms of the amendments. This proposal will assist parties in bypassing a currently cumbersome amendment process and, as a result, help facilitate cooperative negotiations between franchisees and franchisors. Therefore, this measure will help to improve the overall operations of franchisees within California. I want to point out that both franchisees and franchisors are in support of this measure. I know the California Franchisees Association got their letter in a little late for the analysis, but here to testify later is Mr. Keith Miller.
The bill, Mr. Wilk, that means.
Okay, then I'm going to cut out my laudatory comments to you, Madam Chair, and then.
Don't do that.
And then,
Don't do that.
You're winning.
And then I believe that this is a balanced approach, and I respectfully ask for an aye vote. With me also today is Matthew Cruiser from the State Bar of California, here to testify and answer any questions the committee may have.
Thank you. All right, we have a motion. I think keeping it brief is probably a good idea, so go ahead.
The only thing I would add, Madam Chairman, is that right now California franchisees are disadvantaged as compared to other franchisees in other states in the union, and this bill would seek to set that right.
All righty. Other witnesses in support.
Madam Chair, back again on franchising. So when this bill was first introduced, we had 2 concerns. One was, could a franchisee end up in a worse position because of, as we've discussed over the years, the unequal bargaining position? That was addressed by part of our amendment, which clearly states that you always have the option to sign the initially offered franchise agreement. So if you have that choice, you can't be worse off. And in fact, it would actually be a disclosure violation with the FTC if you did not allow someone to sign what was offered in the franchise disclosure document. The second item that we had concern was that the language was vague as to what language would appear in the disclosure document and where it would appear. As we know, these disclosure documents can be 1,000 pages long. So having one sentence in 1,000 pages really doesn't highlight it. Again, the author and the sponsor both took our amendments to put that on the state cover page and specifically state that a franchise agreement is negotiable. what we've seen in the past is kind of an urban legend type of thing. If you ask most franchisors if you can negotiate your contract, they will state that it's illegal to be negotiated, which of course isn't true, but that I have witnessed it many times. It shows. Our language makes it clear that it is. We want to change the dialogue from it's not negotiable to they are willing or unwilling to negotiate it. And again, they took our amendments. We are in full support.
Thank you. Any other witnesses in support? Any witnesses in opposition? Is there a motion? Oh, I'm sorry, Senator Hertzberg has moved it. Any questions? None? All right, with that, let's go ahead and there's a motion due pass to Senate appropriations. Please call the roll.
Jackson?
Aye.
Jackson, aye. Morlock? Morlock, aye. Anderson? Hertzberg?
Aye.
Hertzberg, aye. Leno? Monning? Monning, aye. Wachowski?
Bill has 4 votes. It's out. We'll hold the roll open for the absent members. Thank you, Assemblymember Wilk. Up now is Assemblymember Gatto, file item 44, which is AB